two communities, and we welcome the Colleton River Club participants. Um, so with that, Jim, I will let you take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our annual hurricane webinar. My name is Jim Albano, and I'm the Chief of Security here in Moss Creek. This webinar was organized by Moss Creek and our Assistant General Manager, Susanna Johnston, who is with us today. And I am pleased to be joined by Adam from the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office and another co-host of mine, Chief Mike Tootin from the Colleton River Security, who we're having a technical inabilities right now to join us, but I'm sure he will join us shortly. So Adam, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do there.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Adam Zamar. I'm with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. I'm a lieutenant in the Emergency Management Division. We oversee emergency preparedness for the county under the oversight of the Sheriff's Office. Been with the Sheriff's Office for about 15 years, did many different roles here, and now I'm up here at the EOC and the 911 Center, organizing emergency preparedness and outreach for the community.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate you joining us, Adam. As we all know, this is a very important webinar, and it's important for all of our members in both of our communities to know that having a plan and executing it properly is very important. And can you tell us a little bit about what you ask of us here in our communities and what you would like to see our communities do to help you and the officers, exit and return safely to Beaufort County?
The biggest thing and the most important thing would be always having a plan. Individually as community members, and for Moss Creek and partially as part of Colleton, the HOA or their governance having a plan as well for their community members. So having a plan, and that comes down to rehearsing and knowing where to get your information first and foremost.
Yes.
So first and foremost, information should come from accredited sources. Obviously, your HOA or your community development is going to provide you with credible information because they'll most likely get it from us. Then us in the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management, we get our information from the National Weather Service, Charleston, who provides a localized picture of what's going on in instances for hurricane, and they get theirs nationally from the Hurricane Center in Miami, who is really tracking those storms out there in the Atlantic that might impact us. So we'll funnel that information to y'all. Also, WTOC, WSAV, those are credible sources as well. Those are where you want to get your information from, not social media, from neighborhood chats or unorganized places that might provide unaccredited or even possibly disinformation regarding hurricanes and weather events.
Excellent information. We do appreciate it. I wanted to start off by giving a little bit of information on what we do from a community standpoint, and then how we both tie in to how we execute this. Here in Moss Creek, we have approximately 1,100 homes and about 20 miles of roadway. And for anyone who went through Matthew and a few other close calls, it could be very difficult to try to get through the terrain if we have several trees and houses damaged, things of that nature. One of the things, again, that we're joining here with the Colleton River community is because we put an emergency access gate between both communities just a few years back, and it's been outstanding. When we have a community this size, there are areas that are heavily damaged, and there are some areas that aren't damaged at all. And one of the areas that we had damaged during Matthew was in the back part of our community, which was close to Colleton River, which made that emergency access gate really crucial for evacuation purposes for Colleton and for Moss Creek. So that's been a great asset to both our communities, I believe. And working close with Mike Tootin, the Chief of Security in Colleton, has been, we have worked very well together for many years in small and large situations that both of our communities may come across. And just to give some of the communities some information on what we do, we gather the information in our communities and we report back to you with those numbers. For instance, we have an electronic system that our members would log into, let us know if they're leaving, they're staying, how many people would be present in our communities. And what Mike and I do with that information, there we go. We got Mike joining us. Hello, everyone. Mike, you want to introduce yourself to everyone? Mike, I think you need to unmute there, bud.
How about now?
There you go, buddy. Welcome.
Yeah, Mike Tooten. Yeah, thank you. Mike Tooten, Colleton River Security Chief. Here to join the meeting, ask questions, answer questions, whatever we need to do.
We appreciate you, Mike. We're just giving a little background on some of the things that we both do in our communities, talking a little bit about the emergency access gate and how we both utilize it. What we do with that information, we gather the information, how many people would be remaining in our communities. And please understand, when the emergency management department, when Adam and his fellow officers are telling us to please leave the area, listen to what they're saying. It is difficult for us as a security department to be able to maintain the safety within our communities. So we would definitely recommend that you evacuate the area to a safe location. Having said that, what Mike and I are partially tasked with doing is gathering those numbers and reporting back to the emergency management so that they are prepared for re-entry and for, God forbid, any mass casualty situations, rescue operations, things of that nature. So some of what we do, and it's been a great relationship, I have to say, with Colonel Baxley and Lieutenant. It's very nice to meet you and work with you. I'm sure we'll be seeing and working with each other in the future, and everything that the Sheriff's Department does. I just have to say to our community members that, and I won't speak for Mike, but we have a great working relationship with the Sheriff's Office, and it's not just for hurricanes and emergencies, but throughout the year. So we do thank all of you for what you do. And Mike, I'll turn it over to you a little bit. Maybe you want to tell a little bit about Colleton River and some of what you do as well, bud.
Yeah, and I agree with what you said, thanking the sheriff and Colonel Baxley and the whole team. And we've had the opportunity to work with him through the storm when Matthew was here. So it's as a great experience as it could be for the situation that takes place. We have a great hurricane preparedness program here. I just did a video for my members with Tim Bachwas the other day, kind of explaining it or whatever. And all I can say, the first thing to do is leave. Colonel Baxley, the governor, all of them asked that you guys, we leave. My team, I have a state team of 6 people. We'll be there until it gets too bad to not be there. We have a cottage, we man the gates, we take care of Colleton River. And then the biggest thing is, I was a firefighter for 30 years and we never left anybody behind. So it's kind of my motto where I'm at. We'll leave at the last minute if possible, or we'll hunker down in our clubhouse. But please leave. We have the paperwork. It went out to the members Monday. The stay forms and the away forms. We file those, and as in Matthew and Jim, you know, somebody from the Sheriff's Department at the EOC will call and get an up-to-date count to keep up with, it's a hard way to say it, but the only way to say it, that will help with search and rescue for those who choose to stay behind if there was just devastation. But I think Jim knows, I know we worked together last year. Some of the majors came through our property looking, thanking us or whatever. We got a great program, and Jim does too. I'll just mention now, I know it's not hurricane. I had an accident in my community yesterday morning, and I wasn't there. Jim called me and he come across the fire gate and man, traffic, helped out with traffic. So Moss Creek and Colorado River kind of work hand in hand with all of security or whatever it takes for our communities, just to make it happen.
Could
Thanks,
we,
Jim.
Absolutely.
could we hear from the sheriff's department? I know that, everybody's told to leave, but when the storm event is over, everybody wants to come back. So could we get some insight for especially new members and people who've moved here? What is the reentry program? Um, how is that handled? When should people start to come back? Who should they listen to come back? Um, and just some of that information, because everybody seems gung ho to leave, but they really want to get back when they want to get back because they're concerned about their property.
Absolutely. Lieutenant, would you like to address that?
First thing, first and foremost, to kind of reiterate what the two security directors advised of evacuation. Evacuation is critical. It's about removing yourself from a dangerous situation. Now, always pressing that evacuation is probably the safest route. There's still a personal choice between you and your family of whether you choose to leave your home and go somewhere else or stay and ride out the storm as you will. So it still comes down to a personal choice for you or what's best for your family, but it's always encouraged to leave, remove yourself from that difficult situation. Now, say there is an evacuation order. It comes from the governor. Only the governor can issue it. He's the only one who can rescind it. It's called central authority. We like it here in South Carolina because there's no confusion on what to do. The governor says evacuate, evacuate. Our friends to the south in Georgia and Louisiana have local authority. Katrina, which caused a lot of problems, the local parish leader could issue an evacuation, the local mayor, the school district superintendent, city council, all of them could issue an evacuation, and it gave conflicting information to its citizens. Some left, some didn't, depending on who said what. It caused a lot of chaos, a lot of loss of life, a lot of property damage. So here in South Carolina, only the governor can issue the evacuation order, and we like it that way. One clear message: leave the area where the storm is coming. So now there's an evacuation, you decided to leave. Like Ms. Susanna cited, everyone does want to get home once the storm's gone, but you got to take a few things into consideration. What damage has occurred to my area? Moss Creek, Colleton River. What damage has occurred? Y'all are right near the waterway of the sounds. Seen it firsthand of the storms coming through, how much water inundation, winds coming through, the damage that can occur. Those need to be taken into consideration before you come back. Communicate with your security directors, communicate with the POA. They will give you a very, very localized report of what their community looks like. You might see pictures from other parts of the Bluffton area where there's not even a leaf on the ground, not a tree limb, no damage whatsoever. But might be different from Moss Creek and Colleton River, where there could have been, I don't want to say catastrophic damage, but enough damage where it's not safe for you to come back to your home. Where there's 5 trees down in front of each gate or access to the community, where it's going to take 2 days, 3 days to get rid of them. Or it's flooded out, where the roadway is gone. We just don't know. Every storm is different, every impact's different, but the security chiefs and their representatives will be able to give a picture of what's going on in your local community. On top of that, what you need to consider is possibly larger scale damage to the broader community and infrastructure itself. Power's gone. Power's gone, that means no air conditioning is working. So even if you did get back to your house, it might be pretty hot in there. On top of that, when the power goes out, that means the lift stations don't work. And you're traveling back in from wherever you evacuated from, what's generally the first thing most people want to do when they get back home? The restroom. But when the lift stations are gone, toilets don't flush, the sewer system doesn't work, water doesn't work. Can't use the facilities as you normally will. You got to take that into consideration. Those basic creature comforts could be gone for a couple days. So you want to find out what capacity the infrastructure to my community is. Do I want to come back so soon? maybe stay away for another 5 days till the power is back on. AC is working and normal living conditions are almost back to normal. Beaufort County does have a reentry pass system, and this is a broader scale event. Say there is catastrophic damage or really significant damage in Beaufort County, and we institute our reentry pass system. That pretty much means we shut down the borders of Beaufort County. People who evacuated or left, they cannot come back in until the time is right, till the mayors, the policy group, the sheriff, coordination with emergency management say, yes, it's safe for people to come back into Beaufort County. When that happens, the first thing that will come back in is critical government infrastructure. Get the government processes back up and running to help facilitate recovery and getting the infrastructure back in place, citizens, communities back into place so they can come back in. For that, we start getting the utilities companies in to get the power lines working, supermarkets, gas stations, banks, get them back up and running. That way, when people come back, their daily lives aren't truly interrupted. And then the final step is what we call tier 4 is the general public. General public would be citizens of Beaufort County. Y'all do not require a pass or an application at all. What gets you back into the checkpoint when it's time is either your driver's license, South Carolina driver's license that states your Beaufort County address, or a property tax bill stating your Beaufort County residence. Members of Colleton River and Moss Creek are very fortunate to have 2 homes. Maybe their primary address is out of state, so they don't have a South Carolina driver's license. But you do have that property tax bill that has your Beaufort County address, which will get you back in. That's a big question with a lot of people is, hey, I have 2 homes. I don't have a South Carolina driver's license, but you do have a property tax bill, as long as you paid your property taxes. How do I know when to come back in? Is the reentry pass system in place? Is it tier 4? Can I come back? Find out from Beaufort County Communications, press conferences, social media, Facebook page for Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, the news, again, credible news sources, WTOC, WSAV, so forth like that. We also have a 1-800 hotline, Beaufort County Sheriff's Office Hurricane Hotline. Little orange cards that we can hand out. We can provide them to the security directors so you guys can give them out to your community. But if y'all would like to write down the phone number, it's 1-833-254-6400. Again, 1-833-254-6400. And it's a hotline. Call the phone number, toll free, doesn't cost you anything, and it's going to give you prompts. If I live in unincorporated Beaufort County, press 1. If I live in the city of Beaufort, press 2. Hilton Head, press 3, so forth and so forth. But for Colleton River and Moss Creek, you would be unincorporated Beaufort County. So you would follow that prompt, and it would tell you the conditions or what to expect, pretty much updates of what's happening in the community. So that's a critical number and pretty much a direct source of information you can call that's toll free. So that's pretty much the reentry process for Beaufort County after the storm has occurred.
Thanks for reminding everybody we're in unincorporated Beaufort County because that is important. And people who move here always think we're in the town of Bluffton and then their address, especially Moss Creek members, their address is Hilton Head. So it's very confusing, but they're in unincorporated Beaufort County. Give a little update about services. If you choose to stay, what services would be available as far as emergency services after an evacuation order is given?
After an evacuation order is given, a lot of things can happen. Curfew could be in place. That means if the policy group, which is generally, if you can see with my camera, the people that are sitting behind me in these chairs, they're the decision makers, the mayors, the sheriff, county council members. Those individuals decide, hey, for the sake of the community and safety, let's issue a curfew. It could be from 12 a.m. To 12 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It just depends on the circumstances, but a curfew could be issued. From a response standpoint, first responders will always be available depending on the conditions that are occurring. Generally, when individuals call to shelter, it's because the weather conditions are so deteriorated it's not safe for the first responders to be out on the roadways responding to calls. They're called to shelter. around 35 to 35.9 mile an hour sustained wind gusts. When that happens, they're called to shelter, let the storm pass, and that way they're available to help as a response effort once the storm's gone. So people need to take into consideration when that happens, there could be a diminished delay in response. Time it takes once there is a response could be diminished because trees are down across many roadways. They might have to cut through 5, 6, 7 different trees across roads just to get to an access point. So the time from when you might call 911 to when actually an ambulance, fire truck, law enforcement shows up at your house to help you out could be drawn out because of the storm impact. So on top of that, and this is the most catastrophic situation, is the storm takes out our 911 system. So those are factors people need to consider, especially if they decide to stay and don't evacuate. That's what the response scenario could include.
I have a question that came in from someone. What do we take with us when we leave besides our family and pets?
You would need to take pretty much those things that can't be replaced. I don't want to say you have to take every priceless painting, heirloom, so forth like that, but primarily documents. Your insurance document is key. If you don't have your insurance policy, the insurance company is not going to help you out. So you need your insurance policy, wills, financial investments, bank documents, photo of albums of the family. Those are the types of things you need to take with you. Because if they're destroyed in a storm, you're going to need that type of information to start getting stuff back. Money. You need to consider when you come back in that ATMs might not work right away. So you're going to still need some money. Credit cards might not work. So have a little reserve every hurricane season, put it aside, and if you need to go, you grab that money and you can get out. You don't have to worry about running to the bank and sitting in line behind 20 other people who are trying to do the same thing. So those are things you need to prepare for. And the biggest key is have a checklist. Every hurricane season, go through your checklist. What you want to take. Bank documents, check. Pull money out of the ATM, check. Insurance policy, check. Photo albums, wedding dress, stuff like that you can pack away that you do not want to lose. Going back to insurance, this is very, very critical. People need to understand that flood insurance is not part of your normal homeowner's insurance policy. Two separate insurance policies. So if you have flood damage to your house from surge coming in, your normal homeowner's insurance will not cover it. You have to have a separate flood insurance policy to cover that damage. Those are the biggest things. Those type of items, those type of pieces of information is what you want to take with you. You go to, excuse me, one second. You go to ready.gov, ready.gov, ready.gov. It's supported by FEMA. It provides a checklist in different categories of hurricane or any kind of storm or weather event related incidents to give you guidance on what to prepare for. Preparation checklist, it gives the basics of having batteries, the flashlights, a radio, to food, water, financial documents, anything you can need to consider taking with you or having in your house to prepare for an event, they'll provide that for you. That's a good place to go to get more information is ready.gov.
So for people who are new on the call and new to this area, when evacuation call comes in, which way should they go? North, east, west, or south?
They can only go so far east, unless they have a boat, but that's generally not recommended because you're pretty much going to be hitting the hurricane. But if an evacuation does come in, there are two things that happen. The governor issues an evacuation order, and it's not like evacuation order comes out over press conference, it's immediately in effect. They give you a heads up. So say the storm is coming, this is all hypothetical. Say the storm is coming, it's expected to be here on Wednesday. The governor is going to say, hey, Saturday I'm holding a press conference, I'm going to issue an evacuation order. The evacuation starts Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. You're going to have time to know. So Sunday at 8 o'clock, the evacuation order, or I'm sorry, Sunday at 8 o'clock, the evacuation starts. that order is given to start at 8 a.m. At that point, law enforcement will start controlling the roadways. They'll say which way individuals can go to leave Beaufort County. Before 8 a.m., you decide to leave, you can go whichever way you want. You can take 278 out to 170. You can take 278 out to I-95. You can take 278 all the way to 68, 278 east, west, south, wherever you want to go. Once that evacuation order hits that timeline, law enforcement is going to control where you go. Say you want to go to 278 and you want to go 170 south. They're not going to let you go that way. Blocked off to control different patterns of flow in the roadway. So that's the biggest thing to take into consideration. You know, they always stress, leave early if you want to go anywhere you want. Once that evacuations order, law enforcement is going to control which direction people go. And what they did back after 1999, when Floyd came through, the roadways were a mess. So the governor pretty much put it on Highway Patrol to come up with a plan to evacuate people from our coast. The entire state of South Carolina, not just Beaufort County. They came up with a plan, and pretty much what it does is it pushes people west through primary highway corridors. So for Hilton Head and Moss Creek and Colleton, since you guys are so close, pretty much your evacuation route would be 278. Once you get to 170 and 278 intersection, they call it McGarvey's, you have a decision to make. Do I want to go 278 to 95 area, or do I want to go 278 to 170 north to 462? 462 is going to shoot you all the way out to 278 to Hampton. It gets confusing with roadways and push you to I-20. If you go 278 out to 95, you're not going to be able to get on 95 either. It's going to put you on a different 278 extension out to Hampton, I-20 in the middle of South Carolina. And then once you reach I-20, it's pretty much the furthest point west they can push you. You have freedom of where you want to go, north, south, west, any direction. That's the corridors they're going to put you on. You're not going to have a choice once that evacuation order is issued. For that, go wherever you want. Stress. If you want to have freedom of how you want to get somewhere, leave before the evacuation order is put in place.
All right, and
And
always, I have a comment that came in that it's always good to gas up way ahead of time.
Yeah, leave early. If you want to have the freedom to go where you want. There's always the nightmare stories that people get stuck on the roadways. That's not so much the case for Beaufort County. They did a study from when the evacuation order is put in place and the first person leaves. It takes about 24 to 30, well, I want to say more, 28 to 32 hours for everybody to get out of the county. So the roads for that long, that just means that's how long it takes the population out of Beaufort County.
Could you repeat the name of that website again? Someone is asking that. And before you do that, I just want to let everyone on the call know here that we are recording this call. We will share it with Colleton River Club, and we will post it to our website, and we will also include any of these sites that the sheriff has given out. So can you just repeat that website and spell it out for someone, please? They did not catch it.
It's ready.gov, READY.gov.
Okay, great. And I know that
Lieutenant,
nobody
excuse me,
on this.
I'm sorry, Susanna. Is there an app also? I understand that the sheriff's office has that also provides information. So as people are driving, they can check their phones with.
Related to hurricane information?
Yes.
I think he's talking about Nixle.
Oh, Nixle. That would be one of those other sources of information that we would use to disseminate to get the community, so the community is aware of what's going on, is nixle.com. You can subscribe to that. Information is going to be posted on that, just like it would with the yellow cards of what's going on and updates. So it's something you can subscribe to, nixle.com. You go to Find Beaufort County, and you can select to get either emails or text messages to your phones. And that's not just for hurricanes, that's for everyday events. There's a vehicle accident on 278. There's a major law enforcement present because of a criminal investigation somewhere. It's going to give you updates of what's going on in the county as well. That's a constant presence information.
Yeah, it's there every day. If you guys sign up for that, you'll kind of be in the know. If 278's bogged down, we put out, a little email to the members when there's an accident on 278. But let me back up to the evacuation plan. Worry about your medication, your prescriptions. Try and go ahead and speak with your physician and maybe get a 90-day prescription at this time of year. We don't know what it's going to be, guys. And the sheriff will tell you, plan to be gone. A lot of people started calling me during Matthew. I don't have time to talk to them, but I do talk to our secretary who leaves and goes to Columbia and ready to go further west if needed, who will be in contact with our members and our employees, giving updates.
Absolutely. It's good information, Mike. I know Susanna and her staff also, when we were boots on the ground, she was putting out daily, sometimes multiple times a day, updates to the membership, kind of giving an on the ground, up to date, how the buildings made out, if the roadways were clear, more specific to the community. So yeah, great information and great source of it. One of the things I wanted to add to that too, Mike and Lieutenant, the staffing issue is always going to be a concern for us in our community. So what we carry out in our hurricane plan is going to always be relative to what and how much staff we have to execute that plan. As Lieutenant said, if we're part of the problem, we're not part of the solution. So if our staff is not able to stay safe and be able to execute their duties, they have to be in an area to do so. And then as part of the behind the scenes, again, some of the things that people do not realize take place, that the sheriff's office has reentry cards in the tiers that Lieutenant was speaking of for the general public. But as your security department, we also have reentry cards that are designated for security, because we act as our own force within our communities to assist the sheriff's office, highway patrol, and any other law enforcement that needs so.
Is there an update on hotels, and do they allow pets during hurricane evacuation? Is there a requirement for them to allow pets? Do you know about that?
There is no requirement, since they are private entities. They make that decision based upon their corporate boards and so forth like that, if they want to allow pets or not. But that just comes down to a preparation aspect. If you have a pet, you want to evacuate, and your decision in your evacuation process is go to a hotel, check in advance to find out what hotels do accept pets. That way you already know the phone number to call when the time comes. If you choose to go stay with family members, friends, or go on vacation, obviously that decision is different. But when it comes to hotels, just do some research ahead of time. Find out, hey, my plan is to go to Greenville. Go look up hotels in the Greenville area that accept pets and have their phone number ready. Write it down on that piece of paper of your checklist with all those things that you're going to be taking with you. Hotel, Hilton, Marriott, whoever. Here's the phone number. That's who I'm going to call. And have 1, 2, or 3, because they're going to book up fast. You already be ahead of the game by already knowing which one to call, but still have a plan A, B, and C of what hotels you want to stay at.
Okay, if anybody has any other additional questions, please put them in the Q&A section, and we will get to those. Jim, do you want to talk a little more, or Mike, about who are your first boots on the ground people, and after after a total evacuation, who was back first after Matthew? What were they doing? How are they assisting the community?
Mike, you want to take it?
Sure. I have a 6-person stay team, and we stay up until it gets really bad. And fortunately, we were able to stay through Matthew or whatever, to man our gates, to take care of our property, the members that stayed. And as soon as the storm passed, it was a terrible sight. You guys know it from Colleton River and Moss Creek. But that's when our members, it was quite funny. My guys, the men, were out with chainsaws willing to help because we didn't have an open road in Colleton River. So they got to have, some work days and get out and be part of it, which we encouraged not, but they took on the rampages and started opening roads themselves or whatever. But when the evacuation happens, it's important I get my guys out and all of our employees to go take care of their families. So probably within 6 hours, maybe 7, Colleton River is shut totally down. Our employees go, and hopefully most and all the members have gone. And the 6-man team takes over. We have a cottage we stay in there at Colleton River, steadily on the road, just like the first responders, till it gets too bad. And then we'll just take a look at everything when the storm calms down and we can get out and assess damage.
Suzanne, I concur with Mike. I mean, we don't have a set number of team members. It basically it's on a case by case basis and what staff members are willing to stay. Again, it's depending on the severity of it. As Lieutenant's saying, we don't want to be part of the problem as well. So we really have to evaluate who can stay and how many staff that would be. Just to give you an idea, during Matthew, we had so many trees down within our community that when there was a medical call, the fire department made it as far as our clubhouse. And at that point, we had to drive firefighters and responders, emergency EMS responders, on golf cart paths through the backside of our community to respond to locations. So, Matthew was a serious hit, but it wasn't the most serious hit this area has gotten. And so that's why we just cannot encourage you enough to evacuate, because those that stayed, they were injured, just fallen trees. We had trees through houses, things of that nature. So there is that response. And so, what we do, just again, a little background, is we do stage equipment throughout the community. So part of our hurricane plan, and I'm sure Mike's as well, is we do have contractor equipment besides the equipment that our maintenance staff have. We stage that equipment in various areas of the community so that if one area is hit, that equipment could be used to clear a path to that area. So chainsaws, generators, things of that nature. We also have radio communications within Moss Creek. We have 12 radios that are utilized on the same frequency. And our antenna for communications is in-house. So we're not using, for instance, Savannah Communications or some other area that we rely on their towers for communication. So we do have communication within the community, for instance, for our not only security response, but for the maintenance type staff that is operating equipment and trying to open main roadways. So there is that behind the scenes, and we would like both communities to know that these are plans that we review every year. And if there are slight adjustments that need to be made because of the individuality of the communities and the uniqueness of certain areas within the community, then we have looked at those and tweaked those.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We do take a lot of equipment off property as well to be able to have it available to come back. And as Jim said, we certainly as staff have a hurricane preparedness manual that is reviewed every year, updated, and we get together when something's coming. We all the management team get together and we start prepping of who's responsible for what and how we're going to get it taken care of. So thanks for saying that. Well, Adam, do you have any other words of wisdom to share with us? And otherwise, we will wrap it up.
The biggest thing is that we always stress is, again, have a plan, know what you want to do, what you're going to take, where you're going to go, how you're going to communicate before an event occurs. So right now, there's 3 storms in the Atlantic and or 2 in the Atlantic and 1 in the Gulf. They're not going to impact us right now or at all. But further on in the season, now is the time to make sure all your preparations are in order, not a day or 2 days before a storm is announced. Have a plan, know what you want to do ahead of time, and then use trusted sources of information to get the knowledge of what's going to happen and where things are going to happen and what to do.
All right. Thank you so much. Well,
Suzanne,
gentlemen,
any other questions in the queue for us?
no, sir. That was it.
That's fantastic. Well, can I just say before I sign off, I want to thank Susanna for organizing this. She is the multitasker of Moss Creek. I can tell you that. We wouldn't do without her. And I want to thank the Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant, thank you. We enjoy working with you. Colonel Baxley is outstanding. And I have to say, and Mike and I belong to the Security Directors Organization, that Sheriff Tanner and his command staff have always been supportive of us as a private security group, but many of us, Mike as a firefighter, myself in law enforcement, our backgrounds, we work very well together in our communities. I think you should rest assured that we're on top of this, and we hope that we do not have to execute any of this. But if we do, it's great to work with you all in the Sheriff's Office, Mike, Colleton River. We appreciate you all too. You've been great neighbors.
I just want to reiterate, we all come together in times like this or times of those events and become one big team. And thank you guys for having me.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you,
very
sir.
much.
Mike, thank you. Thank you, Susanna.
Thanks, Suzanne. Jim, see you tomorrow.
Take care, bud.